So getting hurt, it was all my fault. I mean, it's totally clear to me. It was all my fault. I overtrained. I overskied. I I skied in a way I didn't know back then that it was hurting me, but I was probably being myopic. I didn't think, but probably I should have thought. I mean, some people afterwards told me, uh, who was it that told me? Camilo Espinal told me, hey, Matteo, I mean, it was clear to me that you were going to get hurt. It was just a matter of time. But I didn't realize it up until the very end.
What's happening, everyone? Welcome back or welcome to the Waterski Podcast. My name is Matteo Luzzeri, and the goal of this podcast is to promote and grow the sport of water skiing, primarily through interviews. And this episode is yet another interview by my dear friend, Matteo Ianni. Yes, same name, different last name, different people, great friends. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Flowpoint Method. Flowpoint Method is a brand new online water ski training program developed by Jenny LeBeau and Marcus Brown, one of the guests of this show. By covering technique, fitness, nutrition, and mindset, Jenny and Marcus adopted a truly holistic approach in creating the Flowpoint Method for people who are truly committed to take their skiing to the next level. Personally, I love it. I believe they have the right approach, and that's why I'm collaborating with them on the mindset section of the Flowpoint Method. With daily, weekly updates and an extremely extensive library of videos, instructionals, and writings, you can finally remove all the guesswork and get the most of your time on the water. You can become a member of the Flowpoint Method or check out their free 3-day trial by going to thewaterskipodcast.com/flowpointmethod or click on the link in the show notes. Again, thewaterskipodcast.com/flowpointmethod, one word. This podcast episode is with Matteo Ianni. Matteo is a dear friend, slightly a couple of years older than I am, who I grew up idolizing and chasing as a young Italian water skier. Matteo was a rising star of the sport who very sadly had to interrupt competitive water skiing because of back pain. Now, Matteo is a character like few I've ever met in my life, and a dear friend who I wish I could see more often, and certainly now that I live in Italy, hopefully I'll be able to correct that. But he's also a very eloquent and smart guy, and I'm very happy to share this chat I had with him with all the listeners. We spoke about how he got into the skiing, kind of got in skiing a little bit later than some of my guests, but quickly rose to insane levels in slalom and managed to win a pro tournament at age 18, and then took a part with the sport after his injury to then come back again with the pursuit of understanding how come he couldn't really ski with zero off and how you should be skiing with zero off. And then remained involved in the skiing through social connections. His girlfriend still skis, his sister skis, and he enjoys the community still. And now he's involved with world water skiers with what they recently launched early this month called the Waterski Games. Now, you'll hear in the podcast how Matteo got involved and decided to help, but what I wanted to share about the Waterski Games are a couple of little things. One, I've created my own tournament for the podcast listeners on the Waterski Games called Anything But a Slalom Ski. So you'll see the rules. I think I mentioned this last week, but basically, as long as you're not using a slalom ski, you can enter. And this really builds on the zero buoy scoring system in order to get the best score. The second announcement about the water ski games is that an app has just been launched that can help you stick to the few little rules that the water ski games have in order to upload a proper video. So the app will allow you to see the leaderboard and give you hints as you're recording in the boat as of what you should do, whether it is to show the zero off screen or show the pylon with the rope length or a portrait like zooming in on the skier's face. So that app is available at the time of recording for Apple in the Apple Store, and it should be soon available for Android. So keep your eyes out for the Water Ski Games app. That should do for the intro. I truly hope, and I think I actually know you're going to enjoy this episode with Matteo. Enjoy and stick around for next week's episode. Iniziamo?
Yes.
All right, Matteo. Welcome to the Water Ski Podcast.
Thank you. It's nice
How are
to
you
be
doing,
here.
buddy?
Kind of good. Yeah. Can't complain.
Where are you? I mean, I know this, but let's say it. Where are you calling me from?
Calling from Sperlonga in the south of Rome. A beautiful natural lake, water skiing lake. I'm actually in one of those little wooden little houses next to the lake. It's probably like 100 degrees, but I hope I'll endure this in these conditions.
Oh, you will. Hopefully it'll be a refreshing conversation. Listen, one of the things obviously, Sperlonga, historic place, and I know a place really dear to your heart, to your family, and also to, I would say, Italian water skiing in general. Which brings me to the question was going to come. How did you get into water skiing?
Well, this is a very original story, isn't it?
Daddy.
Yeah, from Dad. Yeah, it was my dad. He wanted me. I mean, he was a fairly decent skier, senior skier. He was running into 32 off. That was the 80s, beginning of the 80s. Those
That's
were
no
good
joke.
scores back then. Yeah.
And
he wanted me to ski, and I didn't want to ski. I just said, no, Dad, I will never ski ever in my life. Ever. I was 6 years old. I remember that. I broke his heart, and then he sold the boat he owned, and we went to the beach. We spent 5 summers in a beautiful island in the Mediterranean called Ponza. And after 5 full months there, I got so bored and asked him, Dad, what was that water skiing thing again? And he took me to the lake. I was 11, and I started with 2 skis in the slalom course. And 5 years later, I won the Junior Worlds, and 3 years after that, I hurt my back and quit water skiing. That's my story. That's it.
No.
We can wrap up the podcast here.
Nope.
Yeah, we can wrap
Not
it.
at all.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm assuming by the time you started skiing, your dad wasn't skiing anymore. Is that right?
I saw him ski only twice.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
basically kind of done skiing.
Yeah.
But if memory doesn't fail me, your sister was skiing. Your sisters were skiing.
Yes. My sisters were skiing. My bigger sister, Valentina, she did Junior Europeans. She won a medal there. My older sister, Alessandra Aureli, was a barefoot champion. She won some European championships, and she was really good in barefoot. So yeah, it's a family thing.
Yeah. And it was still, like, I'm assuming they were skiing by the time you said, okay, Dad, enough with Ponza, let's try water skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were still skiing at the time.
Valentina wasn't probably, no, she probably already stopped by then. When my father tried to make me ski, it was like a lull in the family thing. Obviously, my cousin Fabio was
of course.
was skiing incredibly good even back then. But my closer family, my sisters, they weren't. So
Okay.
I got bored and asked my father, I want to go somewhere else. let's not spend the whole summer in an island.
So see, that's interesting because compared to other skiers that I've interviewed, you were 11 when you started skiing. So my assumption is that you at least should clearly remember your first set.
Well, that was not really my first set because my father tried to make me ski, and I did ski once. I probably did another set or a couple of sets on a dinghy on the island, but yeah, I remember clearly when I was 11, when I started with 2 skis and running the slalom course at 28K for the first time. It was really cool.
Oh, so it was cool. So I guess the fact that you decided to give it a shot maybe made it a little bit more enjoyable, let's say.
Yes, and it was kind of addictive for me. It wasn't really the thrill of the skiing that excited me. It was unlocking each speed at each pass, running 28, then running 31, running 34. It was that was the thrill. Like solving a problem was the thrill.
Okay, so interesting. So solving the problem where the problem is the speed or the rope length, not necessarily. It's funny because when you say solving the problem, to me it's more like how do I get wider? How do I get more space into the ball? How do I get less slack or stuff like that?
Whatever means necessary to run the slalom course. And that eventually led to my back injury later. But yeah, I just wanted to run more buoys. And I skied a lot, and I studied skiing a lot, and I improved very quickly. So it was addictive.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I remember because we're 2 years apart. I'm 2 years younger than you, and I started skiing at a time where you started skiing, even though we were 2 years apart. And I specifically remember a tournament in Milan where you were the talk of the town. You know, like it was, okay, there's this young guy from Rome, and he's good. He slaloms very well, and I think you won fairly easily or something like that. At a time where there were some quote unquote young established names in Italian water skiing. We're talking about like 10 and 11 years old guys. But yeah, no, I remember. So I certainly remember you improving quickly. Now, do you think it was just amount of water skiing, or was there something else at play?
Well, the amount of water skiing was probably a huge factor. I mean, I was skiing 3 sets a day in slalom, and every day for 10 months out of the year. So I was skiing a lot compared to all the other kids, and but I thought a lot about my technique and what I could do to improve it. So that was probably the other thing. I'm absolutely not a talent in any sports. Things don't come easily to me, but I try to make it up with like studying how the movement works in everything. So for me, it's a matter of either doing it really, really good because I understood it, or doing it very poorly because I'm not talented for it.
And clearly I would say that most listeners would agree you in water skiing, in slalom water skiing, you belong to the first category. So tell
Which
me
one? Which one?
The one that studies the technique hard and succeeds.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to slalom. Now, do you so was that tournament in Milan I was referring to, was that your first tournament?
It was my first tournament, yeah. I probably did the regional one like a couple of months after I started skiing. But yeah, that was my first tournament. It was like 10 months after I told my father I wanted to start skiing. So yeah, I was less than a year after I started, probably.
Yeah, and you, if memory doesn't fail me, you ran some buoys, like you cut the line, like you weren't skiing buoys at 18. You were already like 16 or 14.
I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't remember exactly. It must have been 14, probably. That's 28
so in
off.
10 months you got to 28 off. I mean, that's a little bit insane.
Yeah. It was quick. It was quick. To the detriment of my back, but but it was quick.
But okay, so I mean, obviously your back is gonna be a huge part of this conversation. But do you think already then it started, or was it later on?
No, it was later on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't have problems back then.
Yeah.
It was the sheer amount, the repetition of the movements, year in and year out. And skiing, when I was hurt as well, I just wanted to get that extra buoy at whatever cost.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, so 11, 12, and then how was those years where, you were cutting the line? It was your first 2 or 3 years of skiing. You were starting to get into 12, like into 35. Like, was it just, because you could see it two ways. You could see it like excitement, like, oh, I'm getting to run 14 and then 13 and then 12. Or was it more like a continuous chase with not a lot of enjoyment, if I may say?
No, there was enjoyment. I mean, the learning new things excites me. So it was enjoyment the whole time. I really liked skiing and learning new things. There were some, I got hurt when I was 14 and stopped skiing for a while. I did jump and tricks as well for a period of time. For like a couple of years, I was terrible at it. I mean, I'm long and skinny, tall. Tricks wasn't really the sport for me, but my father insisted that I did do it. Also jump. He wanted me to jump so desperately. I don't know why. And so I jumped until I was 14, and I tell you, I was praying every time before skiing, and I told my grandmother when I was 8 that I was an atheist. So I was a little hypocritical kid praying that I wouldn't get hurt jumping, and because it would have detracted something from my slaloming. I was so into slaloming, and I wanted to improve so much that everything else that could pause or slow down my progress in slalom would have been a disaster. Would have been a bad thing for me.
Didn't your dad set some scores after which, if you achieved them, you could quit jump and tricks?
Yeah, the actual score at first was like, you have to jump 30 meters, which was unattainable. I mean, it was impossible for me. So so he saw me so desperate at one tournament. They looked to me and said, Matteo, if you jump 27 meters, which is a totally random number, but he knew I could do it, you can quit jumping. I was ecstatic. I was so happy, and I did it, and that was it. I never jumped again, and
never again.
No, never. I'm not like you. You are a great overall skier. I am a niche skier. I can do only one thing. You are a polyhedric artist.
Well, I mean, maybe one time.
Yeah, one time. Still are.
I think the big difference was, well, first of all, I was surrounded by people that by skiers that did overall, so it became a bit of a thing, and I didn't have that thing of like, skiing and jump might be taking things away from my slalom as clearly, I would say, at least not growing up. Then I did, but I carried on for a while and then I stopped. But
you know what? It usually with normal kids, it enriches them doing tricks and jump. You get something out of it that it's good for the slaloming and tricks and jump.
I would agree.
but that's not the case with me. I mean,
Right.
my brain doesn't work that way. I'm good at doing that movement, and I have to focus on that movement. And if I do that movement enough, I become good at it. If I do something else, I become good at something else.
Yeah, no, and I think
It's
what's one of the big truth of what you said is that once you get into something, you said it, that you love learning, and I agree with that. And I would also say that once you get into something, you are full on,
yeah,
always been.
yeah.
Um, and you were into slalom skiing for quite some times, and my God, the results. What was the first? I've asked this to other guests. Was there a moment, maybe in your, if you think back of your, U14 juniors, when you sort of had a realization, wow, I'm good at this.
No, I mean, it would be nice to have a story, with a particular moment that
Yeah.
you realize. Um, I've never had like an epiphany, like, oh, now I'm good. It was gradual,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like realizing the trajectory and how quickly I was improving. I have a very analytical mind, so I was like doing projections of what I could have done 2 years or 3 years ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was surely not a normal kid. People don't think that way.
Yeah.
At least not sane people. Surely sane people don't think that way. But no, I never had a particular moment where I said, "Oh no, I'm really good now." I was just there skiing and trying to do a buoy more every time. That was it.
Yeah. So even achievements, like you said, you won junior worlds. That kind of achievement didn't make you go, okay, wow.
No, obviously. I mean, you're ecstatic when you win something like that. But winning a tournament means obviously a lot. It's an achievement, but I was more into, I was kind of objective of where my level was and what I was doing. That achievement didn't add. It added something, but not dramatically to what my worth in water skiing was at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, the benchmark weren't other people
Yeah.
for me. It was just myself.
The slalom course.
The slalom course, yeah.
Yeah, which I
Me
mean,
and the
I
slalom
think
course.
that's one of the huge like blessings and curses of slalom, right? I mean, the buoys are 11 and a half, the six of them. The first one is on the right, whether
Yeah,
you are in Malaysia, Italy, US, Brazil,
yeah.
Japan, like it's all the same freaking course,
That
and
wa-
it's
that was
there staring at you.
that's. I mean, being a typical kid, um, I I that's what I enjoyed about slaloming. There weren't many variables. Of course, you had weather, you had different sides, you had different boats, you had different conditions, but other sports where judges give you a score, that were crazy to me. I was like, yeah, but I mean, how can I let somebody else be the judge of what I do? I want it to be objective.
Right.
I've always been drawn to, and I didn't like sports, the group sports, which is obviously not a nice thing, not a nice trait in a person, but I wanted to, um, I wanted to do something that I knew that I did by myself, and that it didn't depend on anything, or um, I
On
don't know
other
how to put
people.
it, on other people. It's probably not an incredibly nice trait. I realize it now. I've probably grown out of it now, but back then, yeah, just wanted to do it for, I wanted to do something for me. I mean, I'm skiing for me, and everything I do here, I did it, and it wasn't really a tournament against other people. It was more like I did more than yesterday, and it was fun.
Yeah. And so, and it sounds like what you defined as fun, or at least how you perceived, enjoyment, was uh, your own challenge, not dependent on other people, on this particular pursuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think a lot of skiers
You and
listening
I,
to this will resonate.
some will resonate, but you and I are probably in a diametrically opposed situation. You enjoyed you enjoy the sport. You're a three eventer. You enjoy camaraderie and being part of a group. And I mean, growing up, that to me has always been very clear. I mean, we've been close friends since we were I don't know 11 years old, but this difference in traits, personality was always very clear to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I think. Yeah. No. I can see that. I can see that. Speaking of people,
Yeah.
who, I mean, it seems to me that like your very first influence on your skiing, despite you said you were doing it on your own and it's a sole pursuit, was your dad.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was the main factor. I mean, the only reason why I started skiing.
No, sure, but in terms of like
having
the
the
an
coach
influence on your skiing, yeah.
on my skiing, he was with me at every tournament. He took me to every tournament. He coached me up until the very end, almost. The last 2 years probably he wasn't that much part of it because I was traveling so much. So I couldn't see him that much. So he was a big factor. Davide Domini here in Sperlonga was my coach. The very first year was Silvio Caruso, Brando's father. I skied with him. I had great coaches, yeah. And to me, the relationship with coaches has always been a conversation rather than absorbing knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Since a young age, I've always been very aware of the fact that, especially in fields as little as water skiing, many times authority and knowledge didn't come from first principles, but rather from what other people said, and that sounded right.
Right.
And in water skiing, that was the case, and realized that people just were saying things because they heard them, not because they studied how the ski worked on the water. They just heard, that's the position, that's how you should be skiing, that's how you should ski. That was never good enough for me. I wanted to know why. Every time a coach told me, well, you have to do this with your arm, do this with your hips, do this, bend your knees. I had to understand why. Otherwise, I would not have done that. They were great at that. Davide especially was really good. I fought with my father a lot because he's old school, so he was repeating his concept of skiing and trying to hammer it in my head, but it wasn't working. But obviously, he had a lot of knowledge, and he poured it into me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if I know your dad half decently, probably the whole "it's a conversation" might have not resonated too well with him. It was more like, okay, do this.
Yeah, my father is a very authoritarian figure. That's probably why I have problems with authoritarian figures.
Yeah, no, clearly. I can see you. Like, that's something that puts us together. Like, problems with authoritarian figures. Well, you mentioned Davide, Silvio, and certainly Boo Boo towards the end, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the last 2-3 years, I've lived in symbiosis with Boo Boo. He was the coach. Yeah, we were together like all the time, and I was staying at his place. He was the coach. People might not know, he was the coach of the Italian team, and we were spending the time that he was not spending in the boat coaching the Italian team. We were a lot of people back then. So the time he wasn't doing that, we were analyzing videos and pictures. We were talking about the technique and what I could do to improve. So it was a great help the final 2 years of my career, which was I basically retired when I was 19. So
That's true.
very brief, short career.
Yeah, sadly, very sadly, because again, the level that you managed to achieve in 7 years of water skiing, 8 years, whatever it was, it's insane. Just to think back.
I don't know if I would do it again. I mean, I don't have serious back problems. I cannot ski anymore because if I do, it hurts to the point that I cannot hold on to the handle. But doing anything else, it's fine. It's fine. So I'm fine, but I probably wouldn't do it all over again and hurting my back that hard.
Yeah.
It was to explain why I got there. It's back then. It was the fashion of the day was the West Coast slaloming, and West Coast slaloming advocated for very hard counter rotations, very hard turns, and reaching an incredible speed and basically doing not much in the middle of the wakes and getting big hits on the backside of the buoy. In retrospect, that was not the right way to approach skiing
Right.
because it hurt my back. But with Perfect Pass, we have to think of what we were using back then. Zero Off wasn't around. We were using Perfect Pass. With Perfect Pass, that was the most efficient way to achieve good results. And as I said before, I was just looking for that. I was just looking for better results. So that was a cheat. I found a cheat that I could use to unlock more buoys.
But was it because? Sorry, that's an interesting point. Were you aware then that it was a cheat, or is it now in retrospect? Yeah, I was able to do that because of what we were using.
Both. Obviously in 2004, 5, 6, I could not have thought of a new speed control system coming in the near future. Because
for sure.
Nobody was thinking about that. But I knew that what I was doing was the most efficient way to do it. Because you were using the way the boat was behaving to your advantage, which is, for people that might not know, Perfect Pass used fixed RPM. So Zero Off, when you slow it down by pulling, reacts by accelerating. Perfect Pass didn't do that. It fixed the RPM at a higher speed. So you entered the course, you're going 58 kilometers per hour, 36 miles per hour. It would enter the course much faster, and the times at the end of the course would be good only because you slowed it down. So you had to put different settings for each weight. So if you analyze it, Perfect Pass didn't have incredibly high speed swings. It's interesting. It's not much different from Zero Off, but the boat behaved differently. It was more. Skiers had a different body. Skiers had a different body structure.
Yep.
They used to be buff and strong and heavy because it paid.
Yeah.
I use an analogy all the time between the two systems, Perfect Pass and Zero Off. Perfect Pass was like using one of those jumping, how do you call it? The trampoline. It was like using a trampoline. And the more energy you put in it, the more you could achieve. So the stronger you were and the better it was. Now Zero Off is more like a half pipe. And the analogy is that um, there is a force of gravity. Also in the trampoline there is, but it translates very well now. The more you try to control the reaction of gravity on a half pipe and resist with your body by stacking up, by not going too deep with your legs, absorbing too much with your legs, you can get a kick out of it and get high on the other side.
Yeah.
But back then, all we had was perfect pass, and so I had to do what I had to do to get more buoys.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I guess back to my question, I feel that you found that way to be the most efficient way to get buoys. But then a new system came about, and you realized, although you weren't skiing anymore, you realized, okay, I was able to do that because of the speed control system that we were using. And I'm assuming also boats weren't, I mean, they already had like 5.7s and 6 liters, but they also felt much weaker than they feel now. And I'm not talking about water skiing, just driving them or.
Yeah, they were weaker. The hull was smaller. The boat was smaller, and it was a different way of skiing. I mean, I would have skied differently if I had zero off. I probably would not have gotten hurt that way. Probably would.
Yeah.
I have a very poor genetic poor genetic traits, so I probably would have gotten hurt anyway. But not that way. Yeah, and zero of it. If you use it properly, it's much easier on your body.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, because it becomes a complete. I mean, it's tough to explain how big of a paradigm shift was zero off and how you had to completely rechange.
I don't think people realize it properly.
No.
If you studied water skiing and the technique as much as I did back then, people, you appreciate how much of a difference it made. So I quit skiing in 2006. I basically stopped because my back was in very poor conditions. I kind of did a few sets in 2007. I probably did Europeans as well, but I could ski only like once a week or something. And then I didn't ski it up until 2010 for, just for fun. And I restarted first with a stargazer, and I made a bet with my father. I don't know what the bet was. Like, after 3 years, I could run 3 at 41 off in 8 sets, something like that.
Right.
And with stargazer, I did. I mean, after 8 sets, I was doing that. Obviously, my back didn't like that, not at all. But
right.
But yeah, my competitive nature with my father brought me to that bet. And after that 8th set, I then skied once with zero off. I could not run 38 off. There was no chance.
Wow.
And my brain works in a way that if that movement is not automatic, I don't know it by heart. It's totally new to me, and I couldn't adapt. Zero off has been always a mystery to me. I mean, because I didn't ski much
during the transition. You didn't ski much during the transition. Yeah. I
did ski for one season, 2012. I did not a full season. Yeah, I could ski probably 3 times a week, which is not good enough.
Right.
not enough ski sets to be a pro or to ski well at proper tournaments. But in 2012, I really tried, and the beginning of 2013 as well. I really tried to understand what was going on, and Nate was really the clear solution to how to unlock this new problem.
Yeah.
But I was too old my back was in too bad of a condition to attempt a change, understand that properly.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I remember those mid 2000s years and your explosions of results. Dude, I remember you clearly Lake Turrecetto national team camp running 41 back to back. Like, I've seen it. I know it.
I don't remember.
But you were running
back to
41.
back. I don't remember. Yeah, it was a different time. It was 2005, 6. I don't remember. Yeah, it wasn't common back then. Yeah, but no, I think you're mistaken. I never ran 41 back to back. I don't think I did in training. I ran it, but not back to back.
Well, then I was keen. But dude, you were running 41 in 2005, and the example
in training
in front of you.
In training, I never did. You know, I'm very precise. The most I've ever did in tournament is 3 at 41. In 2005 and 5, I probably did it. I don't know, 10 times. I don't know how many times. Like.
Yeah, you remember the old rankings? You could see the scores on the right. It was a string of numbers that showed you your 3rd, 4th, 5th score after the first 2 who were in the columns.
Oh, yeah.
And yours said 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69, 69 at 18 years old. So, okay, yes, you didn't run 41 in tournament, but you skied 3 at 41 wherever the hell you went.
I was like 18, 19. I don't. Yeah, it was probably between 18 and 19, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you reached a tremendously high level. And if I'm not mistaken, at the time, who you were looking at were Jamie and Marcus, essentially. That's what you unlocked.
And Will. Will was different, obviously. They were all different. But they were approaching the slalom course in a similar way. Will has changed dramatically the way he skis since the introduction of Zurov. But yeah, I was looking up to them. They were the best skiers in the world, and they were using this different approach. My father was a very classical guy, and they coached in a classical way, and I could see the 3 of them. I'm talking about Marcus, Jamie, and Will. It's obviously a bit different, but they were getting away with things that... What? You can reset yourself at a buoy with no... And you were in trouble before? There's something here.
Right.
And so I started studying. Watched a lot of videos. I watched hundreds of hours of videos. There weren't many videos back then, so I watched the same videos over and over and over again. and
there was no YouTube then,
No. Analyzing frame by frame the position, what they were doing, and then try and find a solution for me. It was clear to me even back then that I could not copy them 100%. I had a different balance on my ski, but I could do things to make the ski do a similar thing to theirs in a different position.
Yeah.
And so that was very exciting. That period between 2004 and 2005, and then I quit and I stopped in 2006. I was learning things that I could immediately put in the water, and I could see the results immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember. And it's interesting you say that, because maybe to my own fault, or the way I observed the situation at the time, it seemed to me that you were more copying than really analyzing and trying to understand how you could apply to you. And I hope you don't take it as an offense.
Yeah.
But that was the impression, like he's going full on Jamie now, But now, as you said that, and I know how analytical you are, you clearly must have gone through some deep analysis there.
I was trying out everything. When you say, he's copying that skier or that skier, I was trying everything they were trying. because
Right.
I wanted to get as much information, and you being a PhD, you know how these analyses work.
You gotta collect
I
data.
I had to collect data,
Yeah.
and I tried and I tried. 95% of the things didn't work, but the ones that did, I used them. Yeah.
So, okay, you at the question of have I become good? Like, when did you realize you were good at it? I understand how, like, Corey said the same thing. I never had a moment like that. It was more gradual. But then, how about a moment where you felt really in tune with your skiing? You see what I mean? Like you were really like in control and felt that you could manage the course and
Yeah, unfortunately, it's right before I got hurt. I was in the States. It was 2006. It was between March and May 2006. And I was skiing really, really good. Not the fact that I was skiing good, is that the ski was doing what I wanted to all the time. I wasn't really, back then you didn't, especially for training for pro tournaments, you didn't train to run 41 in a tournament. You were training to run 3 at 41 everywhere. So I was doing that. I was in Florida, and I was selecting just places that were white capping, and I trained basically every day with lots of wind and getting 3 at 41 all the time. That was my goal back then. It wasn't really to achieve to do the world record, because back then we had Chris Parrish. I mean, Chris Parrish was super dominant at that level. I mean, he was
in those 2 years, like on
in
the
those
6
2 years.
a.m. Yeah.
He did the world record 1.5 at 43 off. That was that year, or the year before. I knew I couldn't do that because I tried 43. I could barely run one. I could run one, but in my head, I mean, that's not something I can achieve in the short term. I can do the 3 at 41 all the time everywhere. So I was training for that, and that in that period, yeah, I was skiing consistently in very bad conditions, and I was very happy with my results up until I got hurt. So getting hurt, it was all my fault. I mean, it's totally clear to me. It was all my fault. I overtrained. I overskied. I skied in a way I didn't know back then that it was hurting me, but I was probably being myopic. I didn't think, but probably I should have thought. I mean, some people afterwards told me, who was it that told me? Camilo Espinal told me,
Yeah.
hey, Matteo, I mean, it was clear to me that you were going to get hurt. It was just a matter of time. But I didn't realize it up until the very end. That, and it's not something that people should feel sorry for me, because I didn't get hurt. I mean, it's not like I have a bad problem. It's that I cannot ski. Every time I ski and I try to pull, and it's probably the position of my vertebrae. What's the plural of vertebrae? Vertebrae? I have no idea. But the simple position, just it hurts me. It hurts me to the point that I cannot hold on to the handle.
And speak about that. Like, so you got at a point in 2006 where you realized you couldn't really ski anymore. What were the following steps? Like, kind of bang the head against the wall and try anyway?
Oh, yeah.
What was going on?
Oh yeah, I tried everything. I was, but I did like one set, and then I had to stop for 10 days. I went to God knows to how many doctors. I tried everything, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. The A dozen of different physiotherapists. I tried all, and so the problem wasn't. I didn't have herniated discs. They are protrusions, and I have 6 of them in the thoracic area. So it's not something you get surgery. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's how the spine is twists, especially in the pull between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that catches something that hurts. I had to do in order to identify exactly the vertebra. The doctor did. We did. I don't know the type of exam that you do. I'll tell you in Italian, then you tell me if you know in English. TAC.
So is it MRI, but like
no,
with the contrast, or no?
Not MRI, because the doctor was there and he was basically placing properly anesthetic in the right nerves to let me go out and test if it was that exact nerve that was hurting.
Okay.
So we got to the point, and we tried many times, and by the time the time we found out, so much time had passed, and we couldn't find a solution. Surgery was an option, but I decided not to go through that.
Especially because if my memory doesn't fail me, they didn't give you like a great chance of success. It was more like,
they didn't.
Yeah. So.
And I had to stop skiing, but that's fine.
Yeah, but like I've done this, Matteo, so many times, because like trying to put myself in your shoes at the time, because for as much as you say that you never felt a moment where you were good, you were like the Nate Smith of the mid 2000s. You were on that trajectory. You knew it. You were smart enough to know it.
No. I'm not being fake modest here. I knew it was good. I mean, it's not like I didn't know it was good, but I there was never a moment. There was never a haha moment. No, now I'm good. Now I'm better than anyone. I knew it was good.
Understand that. I understand that. I guess what I wanted to know, what I wanted to ask you, given the fact that you knew that you were good, is what did you go through, like psychologically? Like being given these cards to deal with, namely, you're among the best in the world, and you can't do this anymore.
It was hard because that was everything that I was doing. It was my life. I was about to do college. I was about to do everything. But back then, that was everything I was doing. So I had to adjust. Yeah, I started studying properly, and I derailed my focus in other things. But yeah, it especially the first year and a half was really tough, because that's when I still had hope that something could fix it. That was the hard part. But with time, and by realizing that there was probably not a solution to it, that I was fine with it. I mean, there are so many things to do in the world.
No, for sure. For sure. And yeah, I can see that. I can see how what made it way harder than it could have already been, was clinging on to the hope that finally something would, at least they would figure out what I have. Because that's the other thing. Like, it's not that they told you, okay, this is your problem, there's no solution, sorry. it was like, we don't know. Like could be this, could be that. Every doctor, if I remember correctly, every doctor had his own version of what was going on. And
yeah. These problems, from what I understand, it's not really easy to see on an MRI where you're hurt, where it hurts.
Yeah.
Especially with the spine. In my conditions, I had so many protrusions, so it was particularly hard to understand exactly where it was all starting. It was clear where the pain was. It went from my back all the way to the chest, but it wasn't. It was kind of demoralizing, realizing that it's probably you might never find a solution to this. We have no idea what this is. So, but yeah, I found, I after 2007, I was totally fine with not skiing. And I did ski a bit afterwards in 2012 and 2013. I did some tournaments as well. But even back then, if I had to stop, I mean, I was totally fine. I was enjoying what I could, the moments I had on the water, and that was it.
All right, Matteo. So before this little break we had, we were talking about how after a few years off, essentially, you had a chance to ski the 2012 and the 2013 season bits of it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, something must have changed physically because you were able to ski.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't able. I mean, I was still skiing no more than 4 or 5 times a week.
Right.
So that was probably the maximum I could ski. But I could ski more. One thing is I did found was a physiotherapist with a set of postural exercises that alleviated a lot of pain. So part of it was that. And part of it was trying to understand how zero off worked. That was the only reason why I restarted, actually. Because
right.
I don't remember, it was 2010. I tried it and it was so hard that it frustrated me so much. Like, knowing that I could not do the fact that I could do this sport at will and go back to the previous results, it was something that I had in the back of my head. Yeah, in a few sets I can go back to skiing great, skiing decent. But zero off broke that completely. Right. So in 2012 I tried to solve the new puzzle, but I couldn't ski enough to change the way I was skiing properly. I got some things. I mean, it improved a lot, and I had to change the ski I was using.
Yeah.
I had to change the way I was skiing. And but I never did ski great. I never did ski great with zero off. In those 2 seasons, I skied subpar. I mean, I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got second in Europeans in 2012. You got fourth in 2013. I mean, you were still skiing well, and I know that achievements wasn't really what you were after, but you got to ski boots at 41.
Yeah, especially 2012. I mean, part of it was luck. It was luck. A lot of skiers didn't ski great. I skied okay, and I got second. But I wasn't too happy with how I was skiing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You were happier in 2013 because I think then you were trying something to really make this change.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I started using a much bigger ski. I wanted bigger surface. I wanted to use the boat more and having less of a strain on my body. I mean, I used to turn and burn before.
Yep.
And now I was learning to ski higher up on the water and using the boat's power to my advantage. And I was getting the gist of it. I mean, I was happy because I wasn't consistent at it because I was too old to learn a new game. I knew I couldn't make this way of skiing mine properly because of muscle memory and whatever.
Right,
But,
and also lack of repetition, right? You couldn't, despite the big ski, you couldn't really ski the amount of sets necessary to ingrain this new way of skiing.
Yeah. So, but I was happy because I was understanding more stuff. I was understanding that was the main drive, even before. I mean, the thrill was understanding new things, learning. And in 2013, I was kind of happy with that. And then just the mere fact of knowing that I couldn't ski enough to maintain this new way, to ski that way properly, made it not fun anymore. Like, I knew what I had to do, but I couldn't do it. So it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Now, because you get into things and you have phases of getting into things, I mean, those listeners that know you, they will certainly understand what I mean. You had a phase, I can't remember when it was, when you were really into ski design. Like, you were really trying to understand shapes and bevels and stiffnesses and all of that. Were you skiing at the time, or were you just...
Not really. I wasn't really skiing, and that was a big failure. Well, it wasn't really my project, but I kind of thought that it was somebody else's project, but I dove into it because I believed in it. And in 2009, I think it was. My memory serves me right. And I still thought the ski design, I still thought in a perfect pass kind of way, in a stargazer kind of way, because I didn't ski with Zerov yet. Right. I hadn't skied with Zerov yet. And even after I skied with Zerov, I didn't fully understand it. So, I knew exactly what a ski had to do with perfect pass. At least to get more buoys. To have an amateur ski and turn consistently 6 buoys, even if he or she gets late at the buoy. So I was really trying to find the perfect ski because I had a very good idea of what worked for me and what worked for other people with perfect pass. So yeah, I dove into that and tried to design a ski. Back then it was the Razor, but water skiing had changed. Yeah. And I didn't realize it. Now my idea what a ski should be is totally different, because what we're using to ski is totally different.
No, for sure. I just mean, like, what were you interested in? Because you said you knew what worked, but it was with a previous way of skiing in the perfect pass.
Yeah, it was a different paradigm.
But what interested you? Was it like, or I mean, I would imagine overall ski design, but were you more interested in like rocker shapes rather than bevels, concave depth, like what specifically tail shape, anything that really caught your attention, like we need to?
I was big in round bevels. I was I was addicted to round bevels. The way I skied, I couldn't ski with anything else. I couldn't turn my offsides without round bevels, which obviously kills the speed. You get a bigger hit on your body. But that was the main thing, and it helped my skiing. It helped my scores. So back then, and I was very young, and I thought, well, I have all this knowledge. I cannot ski much anymore, but I want to do something, and make a ski that works for people. But but things changed, and the way you should design a ski has changed dramatically with that.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand. Were you asking for advice? Were you just studying skis that
Oh
you
yeah.
liked? Well, how did that process go?
I I was talking with Boo Boo Alessi all the time, and I tried. Well, I didn't try much because I couldn't ski.
Right.
You know. So we tried a few things. I did a few sets. Made somebody skied, and ended up with a ski that worked great. I mean, right now that ski, if you use it with the Stargazer system, people can ski great on it.
Mm-hmm.
But not anymore. Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, strange. Now, speaking of, phases, right? So you had the ski design phase, the understand the zero of way of skiing phase. Now, and I'm sure I'm missing more, but 2 years ago, I would say, you started to think of a way to make water skiing virtual.
Yeah.
Is it right? About 2 years ago that you started?
It started a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as always, reasoning from first principles, I've never been content. I've never been happy for how things are just because they are that way. I just wanted to know why things are that way and why are things constructed that way. And tournament skiing is one of those things. I mean, record tournaments are kind of boring. I mean, we have to invent a new way to ski, to compete, create better events, more entertaining, especially the pro events, like a better format. Your tournaments are great, by the way, and we have to do more like that. But record tournaments, I mean, why are people wasting so many resources when we can create better events? And one thing that struck me was we are investing all these resources in flying in judges, especially in Europe. In the United States, it's kind of cheaper that way because most of the judges are skiers in the tournament. But we're investing all these resources, all this bureaucracy in certifying scores with very lax tolerances. If you think about it, you have 10 centimeters of tolerance for the rope. You have 11.5 centimeters of tolerance on each side for the buoy. You have 20 centimeters on each side on the boat path, unless it's a world record, which is a cumulative 50 centimeters, which is 8 per buoy. And then the buoy size that nobody really checks anyway. And basically a tournament in a different place can be the equivalent of a full rope length of difference from another.
Yeah, you showed me some calculations a few months ago of how a 10.25, like a 41 off, 10.25 centimeters could almost get to a 10.59 or something like that.
No, it gets to 10.75. It gets a bit more, yeah.
Yeah,
So
a whole rope length more.
A whole rope length more. So we are fixated on this world ranking list, comparing scores that in a lot of ways don't have anything to do from one another. I mean, just tournaments in the same tournament make sense. Comparing scores from one tournament and another in different place doesn't.
Right.
Especially with these tolerances. So my idea was, given that the tolerances are so lax right now, why do we need all this bureaucracy to create a world ranking list? We can find a new way to assess whether all tolerances are met. And the clear way to me is just calculating the angle at which the skier arrives relative to the boat. How high up the boat the skier gets when he reaches the buoy. Obviously, you have the height of the skier that changes that, and how much he leans in or not in the buoy. But with quite a bit of empirical evidence, we can assess that variable with good enough accuracy to offset at least the tolerances of the current system. So by measuring the angle of how high up the boat the skier gets at the buoy, we can determine whether all tolerances were met. I mean, rope length, buoy width in the slalom course, and boat path. So with the simple value, you can pretty much assess whether somebody's skiing in good conditions or is cheating. And for example, Jim Michaels, Dr. Michaels? Was Jim his name?
Dr. I think I can't remember. Sounds about right.
Dr. Michaels. It would have never happened with a system like this.
Right.
But how do you do that? And so we had. I wanted to come up with a way to assess easily and quickly how high up the boat a person gets. And I tried different things. During the lockdown, I started. So this idea came back like a couple of years ago. But during the lockdown, I had a lot of time, and I started developing an augmented reality app that basically projected lines out from the pylon of the boat to see basically through the camera of the smartphone where the skier gets. If the skier gets to that line, he's at the right angle, and all tolerances are good. If he doesn't, something was fishy. But with augmented reality, it's hard in the boat. You have to have a trigger image. I was struggling to find a solution. Then I found a 360 camera in my house that I used the year before, and I said, well, wait a second. I mean, the 360 camera can measure the angle. I mean, it captures everything around it.
Right.
How accurate is this camera in measuring angles? I found out it's pretty accurate. They use it to 3D scan rooms, in fact.
Right.
So I tried it, and it worked. I mean, one could, with a 360 camera, just record a video of a set, so without judges, without officials, without anything, and basically prove that everything was kind of right. Everything was right.
Yeah.
And in normal record tournaments, nobody checks the boat path for every skier anyway. With this system, you would. So I talked about this to Marcus Brown, and I said, wait, well, why don't you talk to world water skiers? They probably they want to do something new as well. So we arranged a call during the lockdown. Marcus, Tom, and his father, David, and we basically discussed this system and the solution that I found, which was recording the video with the 360 camera. We talked about it. They said, yeah, it probably can work. So I hired software developer, and I had the software done, which basically calculates the angle. It's a 360 video player for water skiing that lets you measure the angle between the center line and where the skier reaches at the buoy.
Mm-hmm.
And with simply that value and the skier's reach, you have to measure that. Obviously, a skier would have to give that information. You can assess whether everything was in tolerance.
So you're telling me that through a 360 camera and the height, or better, the reach of the skier, you can see both paths, obviously. You can see and calculate through the angle of the rope whether the course is proper, whether the rope is long as it should be.
Yeah.
Like these kind of things.
Well, obviously, you cannot discern whether one or the other was at fault. So you can simply assess whether the combination of the three are beyond current tolerances, which is good enough. I mean, for 99% of tournament skiers, that's good enough. So we thought, what if, and especially during the lockdown with everybody at home, nobody could travel. What if we had a platform where anybody, anywhere, with simply camera, could upload a video and have their scores certified? It would be great. Ski schools and ski clubs could organize their own tournaments simply with a camera. They have their members come to the lake and spend the day at the lake and have their private tournament, and just upload the videos on the platform, and they would all be certified and be on a world leaderboard.
Yeah.
Just similar to what CrossFit has done.
Exactly.
So that's what World Water Skiers has developed, a platform for that. It's launching today.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're recording this on August 1st.
Yeah.
The episode will be out probably in 10 days. So that's when people will get to listen to this. But as we're recording this today, that's when the platform launched.
Yeah. It launched today. Sorry, I had to unplug something because it's draining the battery of the computer.
No worries.
Okay, yeah. So it's launching today, and anybody anywhere in the world can create their profile on World Water Skiers and participate to this worldwide tournament, which is the Water Ski Games. Right now, we're not launching the record tournaments with the 360 cameras because it will take some time for everybody to own one, or at least each ski school or ski club to have one, be familiar with it. So right now we're just launching the equivalent of a C-class tournament where people can basically enter. They are assigned a numeric code, a unique numeric code that they will use in their ski set to identify when that ski set was made, because you don't want users to upload videos from months before. You want to give it sort of tournament-like feeling. So basically, the platform gives you a numeric code. You follow some very simple rules in how to make the video, and you upload it on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, and paste the link on the platform. And you immediately are part of a worldwide leaderboard where you can see anybody in the world. You can see all results. You can filter by nationality, by age, by ski brand, by boat manufacturer. It's a really fun thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it leverages on what a lot of skiers already like, which is seeing the rankings, right? Yeah. I've spoken to, I fully agree with you. The RC list resources could be invested better, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that people love rankings is just a fact. And I mean,
Yeah.
I have so many kids at ski school that they spend hours looking at who's this guy from New Zealand who's jumping half a meter more than me, you know, like, and where is he gonna go for the next tournaments? Like, it becomes like an important aspect and a prevalent aspect of skiing at any level. Don't care if you're 43K or 10 to 5 meters, you care about the rankings, you know?
It's what basically made CrossFit. People want to see themselves on a worldwide leaderboard, or want to see their friends. They want to see people they know. They're curious, and and this leaderboard provides that. And not only that, not only this course, you can actually see the actual video of the results. So it's fun, it's interactive, and you create content
Right.
for the sport. I think it's a really good project. The end goal is not only it being virtual. The idea is to then make this big worldwide virtual event as a qualifying round for real life events, for pros, for seniors, for kids, for whatever. And that would make tournaments, I think, much more fun and entertaining. And experiment with new formats of tournaments, real tournaments, you know? Experiment with the pros doing different things, not only skiing from 32 to 41 all the time. Have them do something different.
Right. No, which I think, you know, to me that's super exciting. I mean, you're talking about creating content, you know, that you'll find a very welcoming party on this side of the microphone. I guess the question that I have for you is more philosophical in a way, or like of approach. So it seems like, okay, the tolerances are already whacked. We don't need this much resources to certify that something that is already so lax, right? Might as well have a similar or almost identical approximation of those tolerances and reduce the resources, right? Now, and I can see the rationale very well. I guess my question is, do you think that those tolerances should get narrower?
I think what really matters, and the thing with also people like Candido think that. I mean, what really matters is a tournament in a specific place with a group of people, and then it's fair. Obviously, weather conditions can change. The boat driver can, you know, drive a bit different from one skier to another. But now new things are coming up, like the GPS system, that might improve that. So we should focus when it comes to pros and elite results, and we're talking about 0.1% of tournament skiing.
Right.
It will have to stay physical, and but it probably needs to be done in a different way, you know, more entertaining, more compact, to create an actual audience that wants to watch like a full hour or an hour and a half of skiing without, you know, going through countless amounts of 32s, 35s. We have to rethink how pro tournaments are done to make it entertaining for people.
Yeah, no, and I think initiatives like this certainly might provide new ideas. What excites me the most about it is, for as complex as growth of the sport can be of a conversation, certainly the wider the base, the more the sport is healthy and growing, right? And by that I mean, you know, your beginner skiers, right? So the more of them you have, the more boats are sold, the more skis are sold, the more the more ski clubs or ski schools are active. To me, the potential I see with this kind of initiative is enlarging the base, right? So you are skiing middle of nowhere, but you are running buoys at 52. You've never been able to ski a tournament. It will be very hard from a financial standpoint for you to ski a tournament, and all of a sudden you are in a system that you can basically, how should I say, like feel similar things that others who do tournaments live would feel.
This platform lends itself to all sorts of things. Obviously, we're right now launching only. I'm saying we improperly. I have nothing to do with this platform anymore. I just help world water skiers out, the nonprofit who owns this. I've given the idea to them, and they are the ones who created the platform. I just made. I had the software, the 360 software made and given to them. I spent zero time coding the platform that people can see now. So it's all on Tom's shoulders. I mean, he did a great job. So,
sorry to interrupt. You had an idea. You hired someone to develop the software. You gifted the idea to someone else to use.
To create the platform. Yeah. The software and the platform, obviously the platform is software as well, but the software, the 360 software, is a different thing. It just allows the calculation of the angles from a 360 video. The platform, which is totally different thing, is a very complex website that Tom Gray has developed based on the worldwaterskiers.com website, which was already a gigantic website with a lot of data, with a lot of profiles. So yeah, they are the ones who did most of the work. So the platform right now is launching only they call it the C class tournament.
Yeah.
So then the record tournaments will come short after, I don't know, a month probably from now, a month and a half, I don't know yet. But something else that's probably really fun is that anybody with a 360 camera, even if they don't have a slalom course, they could get a score from us. Because if you just take the angle at which you get at every turn, and then you sum it up for like 6 consecutive turns, you have a value. So as the skier has reached, I don't know, I'm just saying a number here, 65 degrees in one turn, and then 63 on the other, and then 57 on the third. You sum it all up and you have a value. We could have a leaderboard for people who don't have a slalom course but are kind of competitive and want to be on the leaderboard. So we could put them all and according to their score, and have a fair result where you sum up the angles in a given time. I don't know, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. How much angle can you get in that given time? And people upload their videos and they get a score. So even people without a slalom course anywhere in the world could participate. So that's the cool thing about this platform. It lends itself to reaching out to people who might probably never be part of tournament water skiing. But
yeah, it allows you to create new rules, right? You could say, okay, well, the boat is going at 58 kilometers per hour, and you can fit 6 turns with these angles in 1608. Well, let's do it 32 and do 12 turns. I don't know, like something like that would create a completely new format.
You can do whatever. If you change the paradigm, you can do whatever. And we have to change the paradigm. We've been too fixated on how things were run before. I mean, it's an old sport. That's what happens with old things. they kind of stay the same. I see tournament water skiing as a very European thing that is mostly done in the US. I mean, it's very strict. It's not really an American thing, and it's not the American way. It's very bureaucratic. It's hard. It shouldn't be that way. That's why it's boring to watch a tournament. We have to change that. Our sport is not boring. When you go out, are you bored? No, it's super fun.
Yeah.
We should transmit that.
And currently, the way in which we compete doesn't reflect how fun or exciting of a sport we do. I fully agree. agree.
So
And
this is an attempt by a non-profit to change things. So I encourage everybody to go on worldwaterskiers.com and create your profile, compete in these first C-class tournaments, and see yourself on a worldwide leaderboard. Have fun, and that will transform into something more.
Now, and I obviously put some links on the description of the podcast. Now, when it comes to 360 cameras, because I mean, you obviously had, like, is there any, like, I don't want you to promote any brands, but can you give me like 2 or 3 links that I can put down with suggestions of what 360 cameras would work for when the RCs are launched?
Yeah, I'll give you some names.
Okay.
We don't want to name names, and unless they sponsor the nonprofit. If they do, we'll name all the names they want.
Or they sponsor the podcast.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we'll put them in the description. But yeah, that seems to be a worthy investment if, you know, you have a club and you want to do some tournaments and have the RC tournaments on World Water Skiers.
Yeah. I think we have to try something new, and this is new enough. It can create all sorts of new way for people to compete. It's not just a virtual thing that a person does by himself or herself. Like a whole ski club or a whole ski school can organize one day where they all participate in a tournament, and they're all together, you know, do the tournament. They upload the video, and then they see their scores on the leaderboard. So it's a fun new way.
No, I mean, as you know, I've been sending some rounds in. Hopefully, I mean, I can't wait to see how well or poorly I stack up against other skiers. And it was fun. It was fun to record that, to get on the dock, knowing that it's a tournament round. So, you know, you have to make your gates, and I checked my rope. You know, like it's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a C class, but it's very thorough the way it's structured, because you have to show the rope after the deep water start, so to make sure that the rope is not changed. Obviously, you know, we don't measure the rope for the C class tournament, but then you have to show the 0-off screen at the end of every pass to make sure the speed is right. You have to show the code at the beginning of the video, and at the beginning of every pass, to show that the video was taken that day, and so it's very thorough. It gives a sense of a tournament to the skiers. A couple people here did it and said, "Well, I felt tense."
Yeah, no, I felt the same. I felt the same yesterday when I recorded my second round, like as well as when I recorded my first one. You know, it's like, okay, well, hold on, grip tight, and make sure you get out of the exit gates. You know.
Yeah. So by first one, second one, the right now it's structured in a way that the skier enters the tournament, and he or she has 72 hours. Well, I'm used to saying he or she, but that's not really correct. I should say they. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, they have 72 hours, to upload the score. So in those 72 hours, they can ski as many times as they want. Like in a tournament, you know, you have 3 days, you have a weekend to ski, and you upload the best video.
No, that's so the tournament launches, like it's on the platform. It says, okay, the tournament is from, I don't know, September 4th through September 7th, and that's the time that you have to upload your rounds.
Yeah, right now, to begin with, to include everyone and to make it easy, because nobody really knew about the platform until today. We kept it kind of, to ourselves until now. We have a month-long tournament, where called the August event, the August tournament, and people can enter, and they have 72 hours to put a score. But after those 72 hours, they can try again,
Right.
to enter again, and they have another 72 hours so they can try a few times during the course of the month, and they can improve their score. And the fun part is that you don't upload it on some website, different website you don't know. You can upload it on Instagram, you can upload it on YouTube or Facebook, and you simply paste the link on the website, and you can see through the website. You click on the performance, it's right there where the score is. You click on the performance and the video pops up, and you can watch it right there and there, or you can watch it on that particular social media platform, whatever you want. So you can share it with people, you can put your sponsor, whatever, in the post, you can do whatever you want. And we're asking for one continuous video, because obviously we don't want edits, we don't want people like doing one slalom pass and then cut and then another one. So one continuous video of the last 3 passes of your set. So it usually it's between 4 and 4.5 minutes. So it's not such a big long video. I mean, it's quite watchable, and you can share it, put your sponsors, put whatever you want underneath, and tag your friends and compete.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'm entering, and I'm doing it for sure. Matteo, apart from this current project that you got involved with, what excites you about skiing nowadays, if anything?
I haven't skied in a long time, and so nothing at the moment. No,
Right.
But right now, what excites me, it's a sport that it's still very pure because of its size and the people who do it. And I see it with kids I know, and I don't have kids, but with kids that ski and kids I know that are outside of skiing in my family or whatever, and giving a kid an activity where they can spend time outside in a relatively safe environment, and be passionate about something. That's something that's missing from kids' lives nowadays. Passions for something. It's really valuable. It's a quirky, different sport, this one.
Yeah.
And it changes a lot of lives. I mean, having a kid being a skier usually sets them up to having a relatively how can I say it?
Like out of the ordinary, maybe? Or
Yeah, but truly not mundane life.
yeah.
And that's all that matters, doing something different. Why should we live somebody else's life? Let's do something different. And that's what we did. That's what I enjoy about the sport.
Okay. Well, that was a beautiful answer. Matteo, what didn't we say? What didn't we say that needed to be said?
Did I love you, dude?
Okay.
Yeah, I miss you, dude. I wish I saw you more. I mean, you're always working now. You were in the States. Now you're back. Hope to see you soon.
Well, I'm coming down for the tournament in Sperlonga. First time back after, I think, 14 years.
Jeez.
Like I haven't been in Sperlonga since I moved to the US. So, I'm really looking forward to that one.
Jeez. Yeah, we're gonna be here. Oh, when is it? What day?
I'm not
is
sure.
It?
I'm not sure about the date, but I'm coming.
We'll be here. I'll
You
be
better
here
be.
cheering for you. Yeah.
There you go. No, but I mean cheering. Like we're gonna go and eat some caprese and really like doing it properly.
The mozzarella here, it's to die for.
Yeah, I know.
It's so weird. I mean, there's no other place in the world where it's so good, and you travel 50 kilometers from here and it's not that good. It's just here. It's the air. It's I don't know what makes it so good. It's unbelievable.
It's the cows watching water skiing in Sperlonga that gives that taste to the milk that makes the
exactly. It's the water skiing in the milk that makes the mozzarella. Distills the mozzarella the right way.
Well, Matteo, I'm so stoked we got to do this.
I hope I wasn't too boring. I mean, I spoke a lot about myself. I've never done that. I don't like that.
Well, that's why I wanted you to do it. But as I said to you off the mic, if it is of any consolation, that's what a lot of guests said, and that's what a lot of guests who people were dying to listen from said. So, you're not unique in that way.
Well, surely not many people want to hear from me, but
I don't know about that.
Very few. So thank you for the opportunity, and see you soon.
Yeah, see you very soon. Thanks, buddy.
Bye. Ciao, ciao. Thank you.